Hey.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Digital Wood Carver. My name is Laney Shaughnessy, and I don't know why I put myself on solo there. I am joined tonight with my co-host Burl Tishner, as well as three of our Digital Wood Carver customers that we've reached out and talked to and said, "Hey, guys, could you join us for tonight's event?" Tonight's event, I hope, is going to be a good one. We're going to be talking about business and wood carving, CNC carving, and just starting a business in general, or being in business in this at this time of things going on, and hopefully we'll be able to get some advice from these guys. These are three businessmen that.
Yes.
Or actually, sorry, we got a duo up there, but hopefully we'll get some kind of advice for you guys and girls that are looking to getting into a new business with a CNC machine. And let's start off. Burl, as the co-host, we'll go ahead and say your hellos, and then we'll let the guys introduce themselves.
Yeah, I am so excited to be able to bring some customers on and their knowledge anytime we have the chance, whether it's at one of our user meetings, at shows and stuff. Laney and you and I, we're around this all the time, and sometimes we get to the point that we think that we have seen everything. And about that time, a customer comes up and shows us something or tells us something, and it like blows our mind. It's like, well, that was so simple once you explained it. But and that's one of the things that we wanted to try to do tonight is get a little bit of input, from people that are using it. If they got some advice, certainly if you got some trade secrets, we obviously don't want you to, get those out to where everybody can see them. But I believe you do have some advice as far as people that are looking to get into it or are in it, and maybe help them along their way, just like you guys are successful.
Yeah, and Kevin, the rule is the last guy in has to start first with the introduction. So we'll start with you, and let's. Kevin is the owner of 808 Creative. I hope I said that right. Right, Creative 808
Yes.
or 808 Creative.
808
I'm
Creative,
so.
yes.
Thank you very much, and Kevin, let's go ahead and get you up on the screen. And I'm going to kind of show one of your projects, if you don't mind. I snuck one off of the Facebook group here, bud, but let's get you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from and all that good stuff.
Hey guys, my name's Keven Schwartz. I've had my digital wood carver for coming up on 3 years, I believe it is. I live out in Hawaii. 90% of my customers are military, so I use my digital wood carver to make going away gifts. That's the majority of the things that I do. Besides going away gifts, it's sailor, soldier, Marine of the Quarter. I do a lot of gifts for 4-star general out here. He gives gifts to any of the other heads of militaries that come and visit. So,
awesome.
Yes.
That's great. And John, this is John McMillan out of Tennessee. John, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm from Tennessee. I've had my digital wood carver for about 2.5 years now. I had a business doing vinyl signs and stuff for a couple of years before that. I used the digital wood carver. About 45 to 50% of my work is all done. Is done on the digital wood carver. Mostly using it to put keyholes and everything in my signs. I've gotten into doing a lot more routed work on live edge wood and so forth. My biggest seller right now that I use my digital wood carver for is my kids puzzles, which have gotten pretty popular. They're pretty easy to do. When I got my machine 2.5 years, sorry, go ahead, Laney.
No. I was just going to say they're great. I'm sorry. I spoke out loud, so I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, that's fine. Really, when I got my machine, I already had a lot of signs that I made, and I just wanted to make them look better. I wanted to take them to the next step. And using the machine, which is pretty easy to use, has really allowed me to open up what I'm capable of doing. So I'm really having fun scratching the surface of what it's capable of, but it's a learning process.
Well, and that's one of the things I tell people, and we'll get into this later. Enjoy the journey. This learning and helping yourself along. Enjoy that learning curve and those exciting and coming up with new things. Okay, last but not least, James and Bill.
Hi, well, I'm Bill, and this is my son James. We're both mechanical engineers. I've been in woodworking for probably 25 years or more. I had a cheaper CNC machine for probably about 15 years and made just tons of signs with it. But personally, I was looking for a better quality machine that was a lot more reliable than what I had. And that's why we went with Digital Wood Carver, and we have not been disappointed at all. We have been extremely happy, and we've done a little bit of everything. I started out making furniture and cabinetry, and we kind of evolved into a lot of, I hurt my back, and I don't do as much furniture and as much cabinetry. I do a little bit of it, but now we do a lot of CNC work, and we do a lot of games. We do a lot of signs. We do some architectural work. It's kind of interesting, and we actually we go to a lot. My wife and I go to a lot of craft shows and sell things there. And but we do a lot of word of mouth things. I mean, we have people coming to us and saying, "Can you make me one of these?" or "Can you make me one of those?" or "Can you make me a sign?" or things like that. So we get into a lot of onesie twosie things that we just do a lot of it, and it's a lot of word of mouth. But we also sell a lot of things at craft shows. We kind of got ourselves known in the community. So you would be surprised once you get known and your name gets out there. You just kind of, people just come to you. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you were kind of leading into one of the questions that I had for the whole group and stuff as we get started and everything. But I want to thank each and every one of you. I know you guys are busy now. Keven, I know you're in Hawaii, so it's a little bit of a different time zone. So thanks for taking time out of your day, John, Bill, and James. Seriously, Burl and I really appreciate this very much. Let's kind of with a conversation starter and everything, all of us, even Burl, we all started somewhere, with the Digital Wood Carver machine. Burl, he was working full time, and I'll let him tell his own story. Yeah. But, making the Digital Wood Carver, he was doing that while he was working a full-time job. And things. And with me, when the market in construction died, because I did commercial and residential remodeling, I sold my construction company and started woodworking, and I started teaching woodworking, and then eventually met Burl, and life's the end of the story. But with you guys, here's the conversation starter. Was the Digital Wood Carver for you, was it just a machine that was incorporated into your existing business, or was it kind of somewhat a tool that was a Kickstarter towards the business that you're doing? Because we've all started different areas, and I'll open the floor up to whoever. Let's start with John, if you don't mind, John McMillan. So how did that play a role? What was your status before becoming a customer?
Well, like I said, when I first started my business, it was about 2 years before I got my machine, and I already had a pretty established business. I was just wanting to take it to the next step. Now, I bought my machine used. I was given an opportunity on it, and if I had to do it all over again, I would do the same exact thing, because what the Digital Wood Carver has allowed me to bring to my business has grown it by leaps and bounds since then. It's a fantastic machine, And I thank Burl for starting this company.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank
And now you, just to give you a little bit of background on John, you started out let me see if I'm correct in this. You started out with vinyl, right? Vinyl and wood signs. Was that your starter? Was there something before the vinyl?
Well, the vinyl signs, I had an idea, and the only way I could do it to begin with was either paint it or use vinyl. So when I first
Yep.
started, it was with the vinyl machine, and I just grew it from there. And after we done our first full year in business and we done pretty good, I was like, I want to take this to the next step. What can I do to
Excellent.
make these better?
Very cool. All right, Kevin, I'm going to jump down to you. I'm going to leave the Williams boys for last. The Riemann
Yes.
boys. I keep saying William. I got William on the brain, Mr. Riemann. But Kevin, what about you? Were you already established, before you got your Digital Wood Carver, and was this incorporated into it, or was it kind of a Kickstarter for you?
It was definitely a Kickstarter. I purchased my Digital Wood Carver as I was exiting active duty Navy. My boss had bought a CNC machine, and he said, he had me over. He said, I don't even know what I'm doing, and I'm making cool stuff and making money, and I know that you could do the same thing, so you got to get one. I had just come off deployment. I had a pocket full of cash and was I didn't want to just do grad school because I just didn't want to study all the time, so made the leap to get the Digital Wood Carver to keep my time occupied, and woodworking, I had a little hobby there as well.
Oh, for sure. And,
Yep.
Burl and I hope, and I don't want to speak for, I'll let Burl jump in here, but we hope that it's been that the Digital Wood Carver has been beneficial to you and all of your businesses and everything, but, it's you as well too. Kevin and all.
Well, Kevin, I certainly, first of all, I want to thank you for your service and have high respects for anybody that served in the military when it comes to that. Thank you for that. And that brings up a good point that, I got a 19-year-old right now and has no clue, what he wants to do. And I know military is a good place for people to go into, but sometimes they also get that, what do I do afterwards type of feeling after that. So that's cool to hear, somebody that's taken that and started their business like that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mr. James and Bill Riemann. So what about you? Were you already somewhat established with your business and incorporated the Digital Wood Carver, or was it a Kickstarter for you?
Yeah, no, like Dad mentioned earlier, we're both mechanical engineers by trade. So we both have come out of the auto industry. He worked for the evil car company, General Motors, and I worked for a far superior car company, Ford. So that's our background. And we got into woodworking years ago, kind of as a hobby. And then Dad got a little closer to retirement. He retired in 2008. So he's been retired for almost 12 years now. So just before he retired, we started trying to build up a woodworking business, kind of as a retirement job for him. And then I'm not going to be too far behind him here in the next couple of years. But so we kind of started out with, like Dad mentioned, cabinetry. We did a lot of custom kitchen cabinets, things like that. Furniture, dressers. We built doll furniture, kids furniture, grandfather clocks, all of that kind of stuff. So that's kind of where we got our start woodworking wise. And then we got into the CNC end of things to kind of expand that and make things, I would say, that are more custom and more personal, right? So that's kind of where the CNC path has led us. And then, like Dad mentioned, he hurt his back a couple of years back, and it was a blessing to have the CNC type stuff because hauling sheets of plywood around to do kitchen cabinets and stuff was getting rough on him. So we probably switched from probably doing 80% of our business was the cabinets and things like that, to now 80% of our business is the custom signage and things like that, because it's a little easier to manage. So.
Outstanding. And just to give you guys a little bit of heads up, if you notice in your screens and everything, there is a private chat window. If there's something that you want to bring up or something you want to ask or whatever, you can type in there and it'll come to me and stuff and everything. So Burl, now that was some great information as far as, how to see how everybody got started and everything. I'm going to let Burl tell a little bit about his story.
Bill and James, we're in good company. I'm previous to this, I was a mechanical design engineer too. So, great minds think alike there, but a little bit about my story, and a lot of people have heard it, but it is worth, and it's an encouragement for people to get started. Bill, just like you, talking about your retirement and something to look at into retirement, that we hear that all the time, and it's a scary thing to go from having a full-time job where somebody else, you're dependent on them to have your income, your daily money coming in, insurance. That's a huge thing. That was one of my big stumbling blocks. So for me to leave that comfort zone. I worked for Wood-Mizer, and some of you know that. I worked for them for like 26 years, and then we are now 10 years old, so I've been away from them for 5 years. So I did that transition period of having a full-time job and then working evenings and nights and weekends to start this business, and it's grown. Looking back, I probably should have done it about a year earlier. As far as what percentage, one of the things that my wife and I did in those early days was, some of our income, we learned to live off of part of the new business, or vice versa, so that we could kind of get a feel of what it would take to be on our own and not be dependent on somebody else. So my advice is, whether it's 50%, you won't get to that 100%. I know there's other people out there that will talk about, if your side business is a certain percentage, it's time for you to quit your day job and go into this full time, because obviously applying more time to it will allow you to make more money versus just doing it in the evenings and weekends. But I always encourage people to do that, and I love hearing about retired people. We hear that every time we do shows. People are looking for something to keep busy. I'm a workaholic, so my wife says I'll die, working, doing something. So we always got to keep busy. So that's a little bit of my story, and hopefully it's encouragement for people that are wanting to step out. That's a scary step. One of my biggest hangups, I've got 3 kids. They're starting to get out of the house now, but having a family and having insurance for a family is quite expensive. That was one of my little stumbling blocks to jump clear out on my own.
Absolutely. And, with, regards to everything for what you guys and girls that are watching are hopefully hearing, is that, starting a business, it's basically, that making that jump. And I'm going to talk about the term jump here in a moment and give a reference to Steve Harvey, who has a great video on YouTube called Jump. But an opportunity to start a business, whether it's supplementing your income for, your current situation, or you're kind of preparing for retirement, or you just have a passion for, building things or working with your hands, and you want to kind of take that to the next step. Of course, I'm going to throw in a digital wood carver would be helpful. A CNC would absolutely be helpful with that production and things. But there's a lot of ways. So you can see that we have different individuals that are coming from different backgrounds and stuff that have kind of at some point in time have made that jump. And John, I'm going to kind of pop up to you with regards to this. You're in a situation now that you're kind of like Burl was, back then, where he had a full-time job and then is slowly trying to transition into a new realm. Is that a correct statement?
We've
right? it's what's your thoughts on that right now? Where are you? And I don't mean to put.
Well, I mean, when right now I'm in a spot where there's not enough hours in the day for me to try to work my full-time job and come home and process all my orders that I've got, which for me, I started out on Etsy. I haven't really used much into Facebook. Etsy is a really good place for you to get started with your sales but it can get overwhelming pretty quick. It did for me. Right now, I've got 30 orders that is processing, and I can't seem to get that number to go down because they're coming in almost as fast as I can ship them out.
Right.
Using my machine, it's really helped me build better product, and with better product, you get more orders. And I'm getting to the point to where I'm about a month from making that leap. It's scary.
And
I'm opening up my first store next week.
Yeah, well, not to interrupt or jump in, but you know that we're there for you if you any kind of help that we can give, with regards to designs or advice or anything like that, because it is a scary jump and all. So we're there for you. And I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to let you know that because I know Burl's thinking it too. We're there for our customers, and sometimes it's scary. And I know the group, the owners themselves in the Facebook group have been kind of offering you some input and advice as well. So hopefully, that's helped it all as well.
John, you brought up a good point that kind of leads into one of our next questions, Laney. I'd like the other two people to jump in, and we wanted to talk about marketing, social networks, local. I know, Bill, you've talked a little bit about doing craft shows and word of mouth type of things there. Let's talk just a little bit more about that. Keven, you guys touched on it a little bit. This is a lot of questions that we get from, our shows. What's some good ideas or for some people out there, whether they just got a machine or looking to get a machine, what would you advise them on marketing or how to get their name out?
Yeah. So is it social networking, or are you relying more on word of mouth and local word of mouth, basically? How are you handling that, guys? So, Keven.
Yeah, I'll start with that. I'm in a unique situation in that Oahu, Hawaii here is a very small enclosed area. So I don't have to go very far to make deliveries. All my customers are in a pretty localized spot. I have not done any social media advertising or post in over 8 months. I still cannot keep up with the things happening, with the phone calls and the email requests, the messages coming my way. With that, social media pages are the things that customers use the most. They, in my experience, people want to know. They don't want to know your website. They don't want to know, your email address. They say, how can I find you on Instagram? How can I find you on Facebook? Those are the two apps, the two social media pages that everyone is familiar with. And if they're not familiar with it, their kids are.
Yeah. Yep.
So every time, what's your social media? What's your Facebook? What's your Instagram?
Very
I want to
cool.
look at your pictures.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I know that both you and John are kind of in the realm right now where, like you said, you've got your social media pages and stuff, but you're actually kind of working on a new website for 808 Creative. Is it Creative 808 or am I saying it backwards? Give me the
808 Creative.
That's what I thought it was, and I think I'm saying that backwards, and I do apologize because I did do my research, but I get dyslexic sometimes on some things. But you and John are on the same realm where you both are kind of working on new websites and things, but you also have your Facebook pages and stuff too. So, like you said, a lot of people nowadays aren't really looking at websites and things like that. Now, it's different for Burl and I. We're a product where people we send them to our websites. We have our social networks, but our pages
Right.
are really low in viewership a lot of times because mostly they'll type in Digital Wood Carver and it automatically directs them to the website, right? But Instagram, I'm definitely on the board with you on that. Instagram is a great place for showing off your product and getting that following and stuff and
well, and I'll also point out here real quick that Digital Wood Carver in itself, if it wasn't for the social, being able to do this digitally, advertising stuff, I wouldn't have been able to even, I mean, when you're working a full-time job, you can't, go do the shows and stuff like that. So that's literally how I got started. Now, so, it's improved a lot from then. I don't know that when Instagram was, and I'm not quite on that. I'm with the old folks that are still just doing the Facebook type of stuff. But yeah, it's a whole different marketing, what it is today than it was, the 10, 15 years ago, where you had to do so many shows and you had to send out the flyers. I remember a guy kept wanting me to do these mailing, the little cards that we used to get packets that in the mail. And it's just like, that it's all changed and you got to change with it. Bill and James, yeah. Give us I know you talked a little bit different. You talked a little bit about us. Anything you want to add to what we've talked about?
Was you kind of you touched on word of mouth earlier. Is that kind of where you're marketing wise?
We get a lot of business through word of mouth. I mean, people will actually come to us and say, I want to sign. We do it basically 3 different ways. We do a lot of business over Facebook because, my wife is kind of like our, what would you call her? She posts a lot of pictures of things that we do on Facebook. And then people will call us and say, hey, I want one of those, or I want one of these, or can you make me that? Only I want it to say this, those types of things. And then we get a lot of word of mouth just by local people that want something because they know we do it. And we also go to a lot of craft shows, not a lot, but we go to some craft shows. And you would be surprised once your name gets out there. We find that we don't have to really. That they kind of come to us. They just And if you give people, I found this when I was building furniture and cabinetry. If you give people a quality product, which your machine does, if you give people that quality product at a reasonable price, you don't have to look for business. The business will come your way.
Well, and Go ahead, Laney.
I was going to say, for me, my local markets, the farmers market down every Saturday morning at the downtown square here in Ocala, and then the flea market, each Sunday. That's where I sell, I sold a lot of my signs. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to do the market in the last, I would say, 6 to 8 months. Because things have transitioned for me with COVID and stuff. I'm doing a lot. Customers are home now, so they're doing a lot more training, which is, I'm the one training them. So that time it's changed for me. But, when I wasn't working or, working sales and stuff on the weekends, myself and a young gentleman, James, we would, sell the things that, I carved on the CNC at the farmer's market, the flea market. So markets are another great avenue for you, ladies and gentlemen that are watching. Kevin and John, do y'all have local markets or fairs that y'all attend, or is it just you kind of work from your shop and home?
Well, for me, of course, online is the biggest thing for me. I tried to do a flea market local last year. It was kind of hit or miss most days. The Nashville flea market is one I've been wanting to do, and I actually mailed in my money back in March, but it's been canceled every month since then. But I've heard that it's a very, very good avenue for products like what I create. So I'm hoping that later this year that it'll get opened back up and we'll start working it.
What about you, Kevin?
Yes, in Oahu here, Saturday, Sunday is the swap meet at the stadium, Aloha Stadium. That's where they play the Pro Bowl.
Yep.
So I set up a booth Saturday, Sundays at the swap meet. Had all my display items out on the table. It was much nicer than the all the Asian trinkets and trash that were being sold down the way. But that's the main craft fair that I did.
Well,
Right.
and that's what I was going to bring up a while ago is you can tell a difference when you go to a craft show or something like that, where the people that, and I call it the Walmart, and nothing against Walmart, it's the mass produced signs, you know, and where you have something that's unique, quality built, that's something that's a little bit different when people come into their house or whatever and they see that, and it's like that wow factor. That's what they want. They don't want the, you know, plain Jane, you know, where you can buy for $5, you know, type of thing. But yeah, very cool.
And so that leads into the next part with when it comes to, you know, selling your product, whether it's online or at the flea markets and stuff. One of the things that our individuals, customers, you know, as well as new customers coming in or new people coming in and stuff, the hardest struggle is actually coming up with a price for their project, you know. That is the struggle. How do you price your projects? And, you know, if you guys have trade secrets and all like that, we don't want you to share that. But is that a struggle for you as well? Or do you have a system that you go by when it comes to pricing? And whoever would like to jump in on that, James and Bill, what do you guys, is that a tough spot for you? Or do you have kind of a system you go with when it comes to pricing?
That's a tough spot, especially for me, because, you know, it's just a tough thing to do because, you know, you can spend a lot of time on this stuff, and how do you price that? You know, it's really challenging. That is probably you hit the nail on the head there. It's probably one of my most difficult things to do is come up with a price. And my wife is a custom embroiderer, so she embroiders things, and she has 2 big machines, and it's a challenge with that too. We kind of it's just a challenge to figure out what to charge for things. It's
right, because like you, I'm sorry, but like you said, you can spend a lot of time. Some carvings could you only take a few minutes to carve. Some could take hours, you know, and things like that. And how do you price that time? And that's the toughest struggle. And I'm sorry, I did not mean to cut you off on that and everything. And I could hear myself cut you off through your speaker, so I apologize. But what about Keven? We'll start with you. We'll do. Is that kind of a tough spot for you as well, or you kind of got a system that you go by?
I've developed a system. It's certainly been trial and error. I start out for me personally, I don't do anything less than $100. That's where my plain surfboard plaques start out at, and so that I think sets the tone that people know that I'm serious. You get comparisons all the time, like, oh well, this guy is this, and I never put down any other work. I don't have to. I always talk about the quality that goes into what I do produce, and I feel that that reward comes back when it gets into somebody's hands, when they actually do see, like, oh wow, this is detailed. This is nice. This is
Well, and your projects, and detailed is absolutely right with you. Your I don't know what they call them. I call them Tritons, but you know, those are phenomenal, and the details phenomenal. So I mean, I wouldn't blink an eye at whatever price you put on that. It is quality. So I do commend you on that. And setting that baseline, that does set that precedence. It sets, you know, it's like, hey, you know, this is my bottom line. I've got to at least make this or more to survive. And so good on you.
I think people undersell themselves so many times when it comes to this. You know, and they sell it too cheap. And one of the things that somebody had told me, I don't remember who it was, but you have to, you know, change the, you know, craft look to a piece of art. if you make something that is nice enough that somebody is willing to put it on their wall, that anybody that comes into their house and sees it, it's more of an art piece than it is a craft piece. So hopefully, and I know people do it all the time. I did it when my wife and then I started out doing crafts, the little primitive type signs and stuff. And you just kind of have to change the mind. And most people, not everybody, but most people do underprice their stuff. But I just want to throw that in.
And
John, do you?
And John, you have your kids puzzles, right? People can go down to Walmart and buy kids puzzles and things like that, but that handmade puzzle, that makes it stand completely apart from that. So how do you, do you have a trade secret on kind of pricing your stuff, or is it kind of one of your struggles, or do you just know this is what I want for it?
For most of my work, this is the way it was explained to me by a very successful person. Charge $1 a minute how long it's going to take to run on my machine. So if I've got a sign that's going to take me 25 minutes to run, $25, I'll start out there. Then I'll add in my material cost, and I'll figure out how much I want to pay myself and how long it takes me to sand, it takes me to shellac or polyurethane to get the piece ready. Most of my signs, I've got really 2 different scales I have to go on, whereas stuff for online, I can get more for. Local stuff in my area, it's kind of hard to get $60, $65 for some of my signs. It's easy online, but around here, it's pretty hard to do.
Well, and that is obviously it depends on your location too. Certain places are going to be more. That's one of the cool things with being online is you're not restricted by your local area. You can ship things all over with that. So very good. Appreciate you guys' input on that. And I know, that is a struggle with a lot of people on that, and appreciate some insights on that.
Absolutely. And let me just throw this out for the individuals, you guys watching. Edward, you had your question. Edward's exact question was what we just discussed. His question that he had was, about advertising and, how to get the word out and come up with prices for your finished projects. So guys and girls, I really appreciate y'all taking the time to answer that question, because that is a question that, that viewers have and stuff. The thing that I'd like to do is, before we, say our goodbyes at the end, guys, when you are saying your goodbyes, a lot of people would like to, if you have any social network links or something that you could throw out there, they'd love to support and follow you, they said. So cool for that, for those and everything. So where do, and Burl, I'll let you kind of lead this one, but I want to talk about where they get inspiration for their projects. So guys, where do you get your inspiration for projects? Because the one thing that I have the hardest time doing now, I teach classes each week, live classes each week. And the hardest thing I have for me is how to come up with a new project each week, or something. And I know we're talking, products, right? Creating individual products and all, but where do you get your inspiration for your products? Is it something where somebody come and ask you, hey, can you make this? Or is it something like, oh, I want to make that kind of thing? Let's start out with Bill and James. How do you get your inspiration for the projects?
I think a big part of ours is definitely the people coming to us and asking, specific type things for us to make. It's just amazed me the variety of projects we've worked on just because people have come and asked us. I did the decorative pieces in the gables of somebody's house one time. Theirs was made out of wood, and it, over the years, obviously deteriorated, and they wanted to buy new. They were looking online, and they were going to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to replace all these decorative pieces in the gables of their house. They gave me an old wood one. I designed it up on digital, on Aspire, and cut them on the Digital Wood Carver, and even had some pieces that we turned on the 4th axis, some finials on there and everything. Nice. So there is a lot of stuff that people just come and ask us to do. There's a lot of things that we do relative to just gifts for people. That's kind of how we start different products. So, for example, I got into kind of edge-lit signs. I made a couple for some high school kids as a gift, and that was my first foray into it. And then we kind of started making some of those. Did the same thing with lithopanes. My daughter was a senior, so I took a picture of her cheerleading picture and made a lithopane out of it, and made a lithopane for each of the senior girls that were on her cheer squad, right? So that's kind of how I got started into lithopanes.
Yeah.
And then obviously there's all kinds of inspiration. You can go out there and look on, with social media and Facebook and the internet. There's all kinds of neat things you can go out there and see and get inspiration from what some other people are doing to kind of launch ideas off of too. So a lot of different avenues like that to get going.
Very cool.
Exactly. And John, with you, I've seen a lot of your projects and stuff, and the cool things. I love the things that you make. What's your inspiration, or where do you get your inspiration? Is it kind of like people asking you, or is it like, oh no, I want to make that and see what I can do with that kind of thing? How's it work for you?
Luckily, I have a wife that runs 2 businesses, and she does a lot of my design work. She comes up with the ideas, but also I make a lot of stuff that I like the flag that you showed earlier with the eagle silhouette in it. I was like, I bet that would look cool. So, I mean, really, I think my mentality is if it's something I would buy, there's got to be other people out there that would be willing to buy it too. Yeah. But most of my stuff comes from my wife. She does most of the design work for me. She just tells me, hey, go do this. Okay.
Now, Kevin, I have to give you some good credit. I've seen your projects as well and stuff too. And, some of your projects are projects that I've never seen out there. And it's probably, a lot like the Triton, things like that. Those are probably things that you would probably see over in Hawaii, right? But I've never seen anything like, the hammers you make and things like that. So where do you get your inspiration?
I kind of have a goal personally for each thing I make to make something as unique and special as I can for the individual that it's going to. I don't have a line charge or a design charge per se for people. When I undertake a project for someone, my first thought and priority is to, how can we make this as special and unique as we can for them? Again, I have all the same, a lot of people get surfboards, a lot of people get paddles or hammers, but really just try to think about how to make something special for the individual it goes to. I ask questions. Again, my military is 90% of my customers. That's a colorful bunch. They come to me with a lot of ideas and on their own. And a lot of times they ask me, can you do this? And it's like, I think I can. Let me figure that out.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Now, Kevin, I hate to put you on the spot. If I could ask you, I had a couple of people that said they could barely hear you and they love your voice. If you could just hold the mic up a little bit, that would be great.
Yes.
Because they're really, tuning in and things. So, Burl, here's a question for everybody that wasn't a question that Burl and I generated, but it's an important one, I think. It's from Jeff Thurston. And Jeff Thurston says, hey, so can your base model keep up with everyday production? And now for us, the base model is the 2440. That is our unit. And so, guys, if I'm not mistaken, I think everyone in the group here tonight owns a 2440 or something different. Am I mistaken? What about you, John? All 2440? Yep.
So
we have a 2440.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, good. So has it been able to so far keep up with your production needs up to this point? And that was a question from Jeff Thurston. Anybody can jump in.
That's kind of an interesting question. The answer probably is no. But the reason it's no has nothing to do with the machine itself. It's just that we've got enough orders that we could keep that thing running 24/7 right now. So, I mean, we've already talked if we would buy another one, what would it be? Would it be a 2440 again? Would we buy a 4th axis? We've definitely had more than enough work to keep one machine busy, let alone possibly more. So,
but you also have to understand that I'm an old retired. I'm obviously the senior member in this whole group, obviously. So I'm retired. So it makes my perspective with this whole thing a whole lot different than all of yours. I could keep busy 7 days a week, 24 hours a day if I wanted to.
Yep.
But I'm also retired. So I'm a little bit unique here, so to speak. But yeah, the machine is great. Could we keep it we could keep 2 of them busy with ease, so.
Well, Keven, I know you are, like you're right now in that transition stage where you've actually kind of brought someone else on board and you're kind of, to help you keep up with orders and stuff and all.
Yes.
But you've been so busy, you haven't even actually had a chance to kind of get that part of your business in gear right now. Has the 2440 been able to keep up for you, to this point, because I know you're growing daily. But has it been done well for you since you started?
It has. In the 2 plus years of having it, no major problems. I had some pins break on the cord like once, and that was like, I had a router go bad, of course. But besides the little pins that I had to replace, everything's been pretty tip top, pretty solid, and I would compare this. I have you make friends, you have buddies. I have buddies who have some other machines that are quite heavily advertised on the social media pages. We know what they are. They're down a lot. I'm not down. I would say the quality. Right. Now, of course, I don't want to jinx myself.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Knock on wood. Knock on wood. What about you, John? Just to kind of round off the table and finish it off. Has the 2440 been okay for you keeping up with production and things for up to where you're at now in business?
Yeah. The 2440 has done just about anything I need it to do. The only problem is, I don't have enough time to keep up with production. That's really the issue that I'm in. But like when I first started doing my Scrabble letters, I put keyholes in the back of them. It took me a long time to load a piece, put a keyhole in it, put another. So I used the machine and I made me a jig that I could put 6 blocks in, hit the button, do 6 of them at once while I'm off sanding. Come back, swap the blocks out, go off, do something else. So to me, I've used the 2440 to start trying to mass produce pieces instead of just doing 1s and 2s at a time. It's a lot easier for me to do that.
I think that's
Absolutely.
a key. That's a very key point too, is there's a lot of little things like that you learn with the things that you sell in bulk, right? If you want to call it that, or high quantity. We've talked about, Laney and I have talked about, we make a version of the marbles and jokers, or pegs and jokers. I think Laney had a class on a few months back, and we've done a lot of different things. We sell a ton of those. We sell a ton of the dice, that like the Yardsy type dice game, and I've made jigs that you just throw the dice in, and I can make 4 or 5 sets at a time, and set up the program to do that. So the things that you learn over time, especially if you're going to mass produce stuff relative to making jigs and minimizing your clamp up time and your board prep time and all that stuff, is huge.
Yeah, and I, even with my customized drink coasters, a small simple project as drink coasters, I have a jig where I can put my 4-inch by 4-inch blanks in, and I can cut 4 coasters I can cut 16 actually, but 4 will get cut, and when it moves over to do the next 4, I can take them to the workbench, put my blanks in, and just keep filling as it just keeps moving down the line and everything. And jigs is a great way to kind of help set up that production and things. And now, so I appreciate you all taking the time to answer that question and everything. And while we are kind of in this, I want to take a minute once again and show a little bit of you guys' work, because someone asked if we could kind of show some of the things you're doing. So this is an edge-lit sign by Bill and James Riemann, one of our guests and everything. And they actually use, with their acrylic, they use the engraving bit, the diamond engraving bit versus bee carving. And I think it came out beautifully. Let me see if I can do it some justice by zooming in a little bit better there. But very cool project. This is one of many things that they make. I was only able to grab kind of 1 or 2 photos of the things the guys are make. So that's Mr. and Mr. Riemann, Bill and James. If we let me see if I can bring that back down here so I can move over. And this is one of John McMillan's projects here. He's got the live edge board with a an eagle carved in it. And then I actually have a second one of John's, which is, this is one of his the little
Scrabble pieces,
pieces that he was talking about and stuff. And Kevin, this was one of the projects that I grabbed of yours off of your Facebook. Hope you don't mind, but this is a beautiful Maltese cross. It looks to be maple and walnut and everything. And so Al and the guys and girls who were asking about, showing the projects, this is just a small glimpse of some of the things that they're making and everything. So I appreciate you guys letting me share those projects with everybody. I had some people ask.
Hey, Laney, we got a question there at the last. Someone who was asking about how much woodworking experience is needed. Can you guys give us just a little bit of how much background in? I know Bill and James, you talked about a little bit of background, but maybe expand a little bit more about your background. What's it take to get into doing this?
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, obviously the signage, I would say, and some of that stuff, I don't know that necessarily you're going to need a whole bunch of woodworking background. Obviously, we come from more of a woodworking background relative to the cabinet making and things like that. So it's kind of a different realm when you're talking, signage and some of that kind of stuff. So I don't know that it's necessarily all about the woodworking background. I would say probably one of the things that you need to be somewhat savvy in and learning is the computer end of things relative to the design, using Aspire or the Vectric type softwares and some of that kind of stuff. You need to have some knowledge to be able to learn that. Is it something that's real difficult to pick up on? No, absolutely not. But you need to have some basic skills to sit down and do some computer work and learn how to do some of that relative to getting those designs from your head basically onto the computer, and then from the computer into the woodworking machine or the CNC. So,
yeah. And I teach woodworking. And so with people that are just getting into CNC, I've worked with a lot of people that have no woodworking experience. They have no experience with CNCs and things. When it comes to, like you said, the signage and stuff, very little woodworking needed. But when it comes to the projects where there's some type of assembly required, whether it be, the custom jewelry boxes or the furniture pieces or what have you, they're, having a knowledge of woodworking or some type of, experience or and all is helpful. But for a lot of the stuff with the CNC, when it comes to that signage or even some of the games and things like that, it's all about the computer and creating that design. And then, understanding and learning the machine and how that machine makes that particular product. Anybody else, Brian or not Brian, Kevin or John, Kevin, do you have any input on that as far as woodworking experience requirements to get into a business like this?
The only thing I would say is if you're teetering, I mean, the best way to do it is to jump. I don't believe you need the experience or to have splintered up and down your hands in order to be successful at this. I think the biggest success, the biggest way to do it is to do it, is to try, is to go for it, learn. If you don't make mistakes, if you don't mess up, then you're not going to have any good things to sell or to show.
That's what I was just going to ask,
Absolutely.
John. How many times have you thrown a project away because you weren't happy with what it looked like?
Yep.
Yeah,
It happens.
exactly.
So,
You're your own worst critic a lot of times. You're your own worst critic when it comes to things. Now, ladies and gentlemen that are watching, if you're looking in the live chats on Facebook and on YouTube, Keven said a key word. He said jump. I posted a video that each and everybody should absolutely watch. It's from comedian and actor Steve Harvey, and the title of the video is Jump, where he talks about following not just your passion, but your gift. Everybody has a gift at something. Whether it be, you make the best fried chicken in town or what have you, or, you do this better than anyone else, that gift, following that gift and making that jump to the business that you're passionate about. And if that jump involves any kind of woodworking or sign carving, absolutely reach out to us at Digital Wood Carver. We're here to help you. But I actually encourage each and every one of you to watch that after this show is over, of course. But take a look at that video link that I shared in the chat and watch that. I thought it was inspirational, and I just wanted to share that with you guys.
One of the things one of the things I generally tell my customers when I do training and they're picking up, you crawl, walk, and run. None of us was born where we're sprinter. You start out simple, and like you say, you're going to throw projects away. The funny thing is most people, if they look at some of their first projects, after they've been doing it for a while, they actually laugh at them. It's like, I actually was trying to, sell that, or I was proud of that, looking at what you do now. So anything that you do, it's going to be a stair step, and it's going to be, don't be so critical on yourself on those first few that you do. It will get there. I tell people just start out small, make simple signs. The easiest thing to do on the Digital Wood Carver is type out somebody's name and do a V-carve on it, but you get the process down, and then you can start adding to it after that.
Absolutely. And as we start to kind of wrap to a close, we're getting closer to the closing time. I do want to, this is important because all of us kind of run into this from Paul Handwork. One of the problems that he's having in his, is the rising cost of lumber, right? Materials, the materials that we use for carving. In your different areas, is that also kind of that affects you? That affects all of us, right? The rising cost of lumber, or the cost of materials going up and stuff, and we all have to adapt. Have you come across that yet, and had to make some kind of change to your system to overcome that, or the fluctuation in the market? And a general question, I'll just let's talk with Mr. and Miss James and Bill Reeman. So
to clarify, James and Bill are father and son. Just
father and son. I want to be polite and say Mr. Reeman, but they're both Mr. Reeman. So James and Bill.
We kind of have a unique situation here, in the fact that he does he does just about all of my computer work. And the way we do it is I'll say, hey, I want this design. I want a picture frame, or I want a sign, or I want this or that. And then he'll just make it for me, and he'll send it via email to me. I download the tap files, throw it on a flash stick, put it in my computer, and bang, I'm running it. I mean, that's kind of the way we do things. So that's kind of why we're sitting here together, is because we're kind of a team with this whole thing.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
The dynamic duo.
But if you want to talk about the cost of lumber and materials, it's definitely affecting us. And, if you're a cabinet builder, which I've done a lot of it, you can, or even a furniture builder, oh my. I can't believe how much the costs have risen. And, there's probably a lot of reasons for that. One's hurricanes and tornadoes. And, a lot of these materials are going to different areas of the country. And, with demand, the price goes up, So, yeah, most definitely. And if you, as a cabinet builder, if you don't pay attention to that, that could really put the hurt on you. It's Absolutely. Not quite as bad in digital wood carving or carving signs and things, because you don't use quite as much material as I used in a cabinet. business, but
Right.
it's definitely a cost, and when your costs raise, you have to do something to offset that. You have to, you're going to have to charge more for your product. That's just, there's no three ways about it,
Yeah, and John and Kevin, I'll let you chime in on this, but let me just say this. One of the ways that I've kind of worked around that is I've reached out to different companies, like tree service companies in town, 5 of them to be exact, and I asked them a simple question. What do they do with the trees when they cut them down out of people's yard? 3 of those companies sold their trees to a mill. Sold the trees they got down to a mill for, they're going to come. And 2 of those companies took the trees to the dump. And I responded back to them, well, I can save you money on your bottom line, your dump fees. If you have the 3 C's, cherry, cypress, cedar, red oak, pecan, or anything that I might like, you can drop the logs off on my property. All I ask that you cut the logs to 8 foot 6 inches in length. If they have the ability to do that, and no problem. And when they drop off the logs, I have a sawyer that has a sawmill down the road. I can transport those logs to the sawyer. He'll cut them up into boards, and I dry my own lumber. One day I'll get a solar kiln built, but I dry my own lumber, and so I get the trees for free. Semi truck drivers, they have to dump pallets. They have to pay to dump their pallets and all. Got an ads in Craigslist. If you've got pallets to dump and you're in the Northeast Ocala area, you can bring them to with my address. And I get all kinds of exotic pallets get dropped off for pallet wood and all. I make some rustic signs. So I found ways to obtain material less expensive than going to a big box store or a lumber yard and things. So that's kind of one of the ways that I've always done it, and to work around that to help me keep my costs low. But Kevin, you're in Hawaii, so you're kind of not secluded, but you guys you have that. I don't know. I'm assuming that materials and lumber and thing that's a little bit is that tough for you, or you kind of got a vast majority of it over there?
Well, it's all available. There's lumber yards here, but it's not like the prices in real America.
Right.
So I am lucky. I moved in out of the shed and a driveway at my house into a shop. I rent space from a local lumber yard that does exotic milling. So mango, monkey pod,
no way.
All kinds of stuff. And because I pay rent there and I'm there, I get a little, insider deal on the wood, better than, what someone else would pay. But yeah, out here it's expensive. Every way you look at it. And that goes for lumber, groceries, everything.
Yeah. Everything. Right. Yeah. So, well, that's great. What about you, John?
Well, when I first started, I was just getting mine from the local hardware store. But in the past year, I've actually found a guy in my area that he goes around to sawmills and he buys their scraps off of them. And he's got a little small portable sawmill at his house. So like the live edge cedar and stuff that I get those at a very, very good price from him. And the good thing about that is it's also a good marketing tool, because a lot of the cedar and stuff that I get, black walnut, ash, pecan, all of it's locally grown or local wood. So, I mean, like the cedar sign you showed, that come from a tree that's right up the road from me. So, I mean, it's also a good marketing tool to use for that, because it's local wood. It's Tennessee cedar.
Well,
there you go.
Yeah. I was going to point out, if you do a little research just like that, you find local millers, but you can also go to cabinet shops, trim shops. If you'll go to those places, a lot of times they'll have cutoffs, or even sawmills will have some stuff. Now, live edge is becoming big, so what they used to throw in the slab pile, they may be hanging on to and selling, but I still think if you do some digging, you should be able to, reach out to those places, cabinet shops that have cutoffs or scraps, trim shops. A lot of times they used to, I know, have like a pallet where you could buy a whole pallet for, so much, and they'll range from, 12 inches to probably 20 inches, not huge pieces, but for us, that's what we use a lot of.
Right.
Go ahead,
John.
In my area, there's a lot of people on Facebook Marketplace that are selling live edge slabs at a fraction of what you would wind up going to try to get it from another place.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, we're getting ready to wrap up, but we had one last question, which I thought, I'd like to kind of answer it, but how can I get my wife involved in doing this? I'd love to get her involved, but she wants no part of learning new software. And Mark, for me to, as an instructor of the software, the one thing that I can say is the software is very user-friendly and intuitive. And Mark, I believe you're a customer.
Yeah. Mark's
okay,
out in Kansas, I think, is where Mark's from.
But
Good guy.
For me, I think the CNC is a great opportunity for the whole family to get involved. Young, old, male, female, doesn't matter, because it's just a chance to be creative and have some fun. What you want to do for me is, let her make something cool, fun for, an upcoming event that she's having, where it's a sign that she's going to give to her guests or something, something real simple, that's easy for her and not too complex. We don't want her trying to carve big emblems where you got a lot of node editing and things like that. That's overwhelming to the brain. Just a very simple sign, show her how to lay it out. And then where she can make a multiple copies of that, and customize it for her different guests or something for an event she has coming up. And it's a great way to kind of introduce her to it. But if you try to get her into complex project designs, the software, it's going to be, even though it's user friendly, it's going to be a little bit overwhelming, and it's not going to be any fun. You got to make it fun and cool and stuff, and I think that'll be, if you could just slowly tiptoe her in. I kind of incorporate it to, like, if you were teaching a spouse how to, you want her to start protecting herself and you're teaching her how to shoot, you're not going to hand her a big 44 Magnum and take her to the range. You're going to start off small with a little 22 or something, so it's not so scary. And we don't want to scare them. With the software, it could be really scary with big projects. Start off small, something very cool, very awesome that she can share with her friends or whatever. And then from there, it'll be hooked. Don't you worry, we'll get you. I just wanted to take a minute to answer that. Well, guys, we've been going about an hour. I want to thank each and every one of you, and I'd like to end with each one of us just taking a few minutes, just a short moment to give, if you have any advice to share, if you want to say your closing, your goodbyes and stuff, I'm going to start off while I'll call you one at a time. But if you have any little last minute tip or advice for people that are looking to get into CNC or start a business with it, share that as you say your goodbyes, and then we'll close out this segment. And I'm going to just go from left to right. So Bill and James, if you could start us off. Again, thank you. And while you're saying your goodbyes, if there's any way in social network or any way that people can reach out to you, let them know. They'd love to support you.
No, I guess, first of all, thanks a lot for the opportunity for us to get, all together and share some of our experiences. I think there's a lot that can be learned from one another. So great opportunity. And thanks, Laney and Burl, for kind of hosting that. As far as getting started, I think the advice that we've all heard already, just take the jump and have fun doing it. I mean, we've had a lot of fun learning. We've made our share of mistakes. We've thrown our projects away that, are made mistakes on our programs and not like what we've turned out and had to go back and tweak it. But we've learned a lot and we've had a lot of fun doing it. So that's to me, the biggest thing is just go ahead and make that jump. And have fun doing it. And I would suggest that, I'll put the plug in for the Digital Wood Carver, to have the opportunity to work with Burl and Laney over the last couple years and, get help with projects if we've needed it, get help with our system if we've needed help. The system itself has been second to none. We've had no issues with our CNC and have loved every minute of running it. The service that Burl and Laney have provided with the system has been wonderful. So if you have hesitations relative to the system itself or learning the software, there's no better company to get involved with to help you get through those learning curves. So just jump.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And John, as you say your goodbyes, if you have any little bit of advice, we'd love to hear it.
Well, to me, I've had my machine for 2.5 years. I've had very little issues with the machines, and what I have had problems with, Burl and Laney have always been there, quick to help me figure out what it is, get me on the right track. Very little issues with the machine itself. Like I said, it's been fixed rather quickly. The biggest problems I've had with the software is when I'm trying to get a design right. To me, the biggest asset to Digital Wood Carver is Laney. Laney is there to help us out with anything. It's a great machine. When you get one, if you join our Facebook page, you're going to get overwhelmed looking at everything that everybody else is making. Start small. Don't try to take off running. Just start small. You'll eventually want to better yourself, and you're going to have fun doing it. So that's really all I could say. If you want to check out some of my other work, you can look at Tennessee Rustic on Facebook or TN Rustic on Instagram. I post things there from time to time.
Awesome. And Keven, thank you very much again for joining us. If you have any closing, advice or anything for our viewers enough, now would be great.
Oh, advice.
Share your social networks. How can people reach you? And if you have any little tips or advice that you would like to give before you close out.
Well, what makes this easy for me is every time, again, I try to make something as unique and special as I can. So having that in mind when I do handle an item, that does make this worth it. It's the feeling of, and you guys can attest to it, of putting something in somebody's hands that you made, and they're just like, wow, is this for me? Like, that it feels great. I'm 808 Creative, at 808 Creative on Instagram, at 808 Creative Group on Facebook, and I will post a few pictures on the Digital Wood Carver Facebook page of some recent projects. I'm happy to answer any questions. Personally, I feel there's enough business out there for anybody. I'll happily share my tips and my methods of anything I do. Help guide you in the right direction, or at least tell you what to do so you can do it yourself. So,
well, we absolutely appreciate that. That's wonderful that you're willing to do that, and all of our customers, Burl, I think you agree, are amazing. We have been fortunate that we have a Facebook group, a Digital Wood Carver Facebook group, where the customers share and talk with each other and stuff, and it's just a wonderful community. But people, Burl, how can they reach us if you want to throw out some information and stuff? Let them know.
Certainly. Yeah, digitalwoodcarver.com is our website, and we've got some exciting things coming in July. If you haven't been on our Facebook, we have a marketing guy, Jake's been doing some cool stuff. Laney and I have been working with him on creating some packages that's being released here in July for specials and stuff like that. Some good deals. If you would like to get started, certainly either give us a call. Laney's had the website and the phone number up the bottom the whole time, and he'll pop that back up. And give us a call. Check out our website. When it comes to that, email us, call us. And, whether you, as far as placing orders, there's some people that just like to, do it right on our website. But feel free to call us. You can do that and have that personal, what do I need to do to get started type of questions. Laney does a phenomenal job with training, but also with sales when it comes to that. And he'll answer questions. And I will, this is where Laney shines. I mean, he is absolutely phenomenal. His passion is training and getting people, to where they're successful. And that's our whole goal here is, you guys have been successful, and we appreciate you guys coming on and sharing a little bit of that success and hopefully encouraging people, whether it's a customer that has their machine and it's a little bit discouraged that maybe they're not getting the markets that they want. After watching this video, they go out and take some of this advice, or if it's somebody that's looking to get into it, that they would say, hey, somebody else was able to do that, I can do that too. So we appreciate you coming on and sharing a little bit about your story, your how you started, some of your businesses and stuff like that. And we really appreciate that, taking time out of your schedule.
Absolutely. And, I want to thank each and every one of you. At Digital Wood Carver, we try our best to be there for our customers. And when it comes to me, I love teaching. I love working with our customers, whether it's in a group or one-on-one basis. I do make myself available. Our customer support is 24 hours a day, 6 days a week. We do try to rest on Sunday, but we do take emergency calls from time to time. One of the people in the group asked where the best place to buy project files were and everything. So I'm going to kind of close with, when you're looking for project files, some great places would be places like designandmake.com, Etsy, even eBay, Turbo Squid, and at cgtrader.com. Places like that are great places to find CNC files and model files and things. For me, I always go to like eBay or Etsy first, and then, Design and Make is made by Vectric. So that's where my primary is, support is and all, but there's a lot of great sites in there. So for the individual that asked that question, hopefully, one of those names that I threw out there, cgtrader.com, Thingiverse, Turbo Squid, Etsy, eBay, those are great places, and Design and Make, of course, by Vectric. But I want to thank you all for taking the time to join Burl and I tonight. We greatly appreciate you. Keep going with your success, and we wish you all the best and success and everything. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for spending the time joining us and listening to our guys' story here, our group story. And Burl, we have another event similar to this coming up in 2 weeks, where we're actually going to do another roundtable, if I'm not mistaken, with another group of individuals. So that will be the following Wednesday, not this Wednesday coming, but next Wednesday. We will do another roundtable discussion under the same kind of topic of business with a little bit of a twist to it. We will make those announcements on our Facebook page, as well as our website and all about that group. But let me just recap once again for everybody, because people would ask. Keven Swartz, Keven was down in the bottom left. You can find him, and Keven, correct me if I'm wrong, but at 808 Creative on Instagram, and 808 Creative Group on Facebook.
Yes.
Yes. And now, is that all one word, 808 Creative Group, or is there a dash or an underscore? Or?
No, it's just, if you go to facebook.com/808 Creative Group, that'll get you there.
Okay, 808 Creative Group on Facebook. Awesome. And then John, TennesseeRustic.com, Tennessee Rustic on Facebook, or TN. John, what was your TR?
TN Rustic on Instagram.
On Instagram, TN Rustic on Instagram. Bill and James, is there a way, if somebody wanted to support or follow you on Facebook, is there a way they could do that, or Instagram or anything like that? Or do you have any social networks?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're on Facebook, you can look us up under Signs and Wonders. That's where we do a lot of our woodworking and signage types, custom signage stuff. And then the other thing that we have is a site called Our Daily Thread, which is a lot of our custom embroidery stuff. And we actually do post some of our woodworking stuff there too. So
nice.
Outstanding. Our Daily Thread, that's a very cool name. Absolutely. Well, listen, guys and girls, we're going to say our goodbyes. I want to thank each and every one of you.
Yep.
Y'all have a great night, and thank you all for joining us and watching as well, for those of you at home watching us. All right, guys, thanks for joining us. Bye now.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.